In 2020, Gamefound, a company who historically partnered with publishers crowdfunding games on Kickstarter, announced that they would begin hosting their own crowdfunding service specifically for tabletop games. By early 2021, they had completed their first campaign, and now numerous upcoming projects have since been announced for the service, including the collector's edition of Portal Games' cooperative classic Robinson Crusoe, and the hotly anticipated tabletop adaptation of Skyrim by Modifius. To find out more from a publisher perspective on the pros and cons of this new crowdfunding platform, I've asked Carla Kopp to come onto the Cardboard Herald and answer some questions. Carla is a game designer, owner and co-owner of Weird Giraffe and Galactic Raptor games respectively, and has numerous successful Kickstarter games under her belt. Weird Giraffe's latest Kickstarter campaign for Gifts of Tulips is up as of the date this episode goes live. All right, so Carla, when I first saw Gamefound as this brand new crowdsourced platform for tabletop games, I thought of you because you are someone who at this point has crowdfunded 13 or 14 games between the Weird Giraffe stuff, the Galactic Raptor stuff. So when I wanted a pro to talk to, it was you. What is up with this new thing?
So, there's a couple reasons why you might want to use Gamefound. First of all, well, when you put on a Kickstarter project, a portion of the proceeds go to Kickstarter, which is 8 to 10%, which is quite a bit. You really have to know that this is going to happen. But with Gamefound takes less of that percentage. So if you're a publisher and you bring your entire crowd, you can make more money just by going to Gamefound because you get less taken out.
Well, I have two questions here. One, you said that Kickstarter is 8 to 10%. Is that a sliding scale based off of the success of your campaign? If you make more gross money through the campaign, you pay a smaller percentage, or does it depend on other factors? What goes into that?
I think it's other factors. It depends on how people are paying. It's the different credit card company fees.
Oh, okay. And as far as Gamefound, I was doing a little bit of research on their website, which really feels pretty opaque. They don't have a lot of information up front for me as just someone investigating a little bit more about it. And at the bottom, it actually says 100% free. And I don't know who that's talking to. Is that talking to publishers? Is that talking to me as a consumer? You as someone who is constantly looking at publishing new games, and of course you want to have the best bang for your buck and have the best utility, what would pique your interest about utilizing Gamefound? And is that 100% free directed at you, or what's that describing?
So yeah, that is directed at publishers. They still have to pay the credit card fee because credit card companies charge fees for being able to use them. But it's that extra percent that would go to Kickstarter, but now just doesn't go to Gamefound.
Then what do they benefit from it?
I think they will in the future start charging or doing something
okay.
like that. Because they started off as a pledge manager and they've had this thing the whole time where it's oh yeah, Gamefound is entirely free. So instead of going to Pledge Manager or BackerKit or any of the other pledge managers, which all do charge per backer or a flat fee or something like that, Gamefound was entirely free. So that's how they first started getting people into the platform, was through the pledge manager. So as time went on and people started making more and more accounts, then they want to go into the whole crowdfunding. They might have another goal, maybe they want to be a huge marketplace or something else, and as more and more people use it as both a crowdfunding platform and a pledge manager platform, once everyone or a majority of the board gamers have accounts and know what to do, then they can launch something else.
You're super plugged into the board game-averse social media, connecting with other publishers. And I know that this kind of change-up must be an imperative thing to consider, especially for really small publishers. As far as how are we actually going to get games made? So was there a lot of scuttle on the publisher end when Gamefound first announced that they were going to be a platform for crowdfunding?
Yeah, there's definitely been a lot of people watching to see like how many backers and how well the campaigns do, which is another reason why you might want to like use GameFound right now because GameFound wants to be a crowdfunding platform. So they're probably going to try as hard as they can to make sure that like all these like first campaigns go like really well because if they go really well, then more people will be like, oh yeah, maybe I can use GameFound, and they'll just get more and more creators using their platform.
Do you see any other reason why you might want to use this as a publisher as opposed to Kickstarter? Like, it was really interesting to me when I looked at the information at GameFound, and it doesn't inherently have any, this is why we exist as an alternative to Kickstarter. And I know that through talking to publishers in the past that I've heard gripes about how Kickstarter has sometimes managed their projects, the functionality that you have as a creator, like the ability to moderate some of the comment sections. I mean, that's a hot topic right now with what's going on with the latest Tiny Epic game and some of the scuttle around Elizabeth Hargrave and all of that kind of stuff. But like, for you, are there any reasons to consider why you might use this platform as opposed to Kickstarter?
So there's a couple reasons. Like, well, as you say, like GameFound says that you can moderate. And at the end of the day, like I've run a number of Kickstarter campaigns where like if I could fire a backer, I would. Like nothing, like there's some backers that get like super passionate and super angry, and it's like you are backing for $1, and that dollar, like I would rather give it back to you than deal with like your anger and rage each day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that is definitely like a reason you would go there. Also, like just setting up the pledge man or the Kickstarter page can be a big hassle because like it's a very finicky thing. It sometimes goes down. The messaging system isn't ideal. And like Kickstarter has rules, but the rules are vague. Like, for instance, they have a rule where you have to finish and fulfill your first campaign before you do your second campaign. And I say those rules very specifically because, like, we've had a lot of talk, like, in the publisher groups of what does that mean? Does it mean you have to do the first campaign, fulfill it, and then you can do the second campaign? And who cares when you do the third campaign? Or do you have to like fulfill a campaign every time? I think it was like 2 years ago where there was like a bunch of Kickstarters that like they got canceled, and like there's all these different things that you have to do. In addition to be like you have to be from certain countries or have like a bank account in certain countries. And I'm not sure like where GameFound is, but I know like some like people that live in specific countries like they can't go to Kickstarter. So GameFound would be a good reason for that as well. And like just the Kickstarter business practices. From what I understand, they're listed as a nonprofit, and that's I wouldn't agree with that statement.
Yeah, no kidding.
And I think it was like also like 2 or 3 years ago where there was like a bunch of like protests or layoffs or something, and everyone was like, "Oh, do I support Kickstarter or like do I support the Kickstarter employees? Like, how do I do this?" Or just trying something new because like as I said before, like GameFound wants GameFound to be really good. So if you're like the first or the second one on that, people will look at you and watch the campaign and probably back you because they want to know like how GameFound is working right now.
Yeah, well, one thing that occurred to me, just as a layman, is that they're focusing on tabletop gaming, and one of the benefits to me of Kickstarter is that it seems like anything that you would want to create within reason, as long as it's not super offensive. I mean, Kickstarter seems pretty arbitrary on what it considers offensive or not, but like, do you know if there is some sort of body that moderates what constitutes a game or not, because there's a lot of subjectivity in that. Like, is this going to expand beyond tabletop games into other things that are tangentially related? Does it go into puzzles? Like, there are a lot of things that have been kickstarted in the past that are in the zone, in the vicinity of tabletop games, but aren't necessarily those games themselves. And do you know if their platform is more focused or is welcoming to kind of interpret what constitutes tabletop gaming?
So I don't know, like they haven't said anything, but like as you said, like when you were researching, like they haven't said much. I think they're kind of like waiting and seeing what will happen, and just like going with the flow to see like what's popular, what's not. I think that's also why they don't have like a lot of information because they want to like test the waters and see what happens. That's like a lot of what they did with the pledge manager. Like when it the pledge manager part of Gamefound first went up, they're like, "Hey, is this thing. You can use it for free. If there's anything you want or anything you want changed, just let us know, and we might change it for you. Like, we want to do the things that need to get done, and we don't know what those are. So tell us, and we'll evolve as time goes on." And I think that has really been true. I used GameFound as a pledge manager, I believe, 2 years ago, and like I gave them some feedback, and I think since then, what I've heard is like they've incorporated some of the things. Like one of the things I saw as unwieldy was the fact that like you have different tiers, at least on Kickstarter, and when you came into the pledge manager, you could choose whatever tier. Like it didn't like stick you into a certain tier. So if somebody had bought like a specific thing, they could just change it, and that might not be what the creator would want. So like now, from what I hear of other people talking about it, like now you can say like if you did this tier on Kickstarter, you have to be in this tier on the pledge manager. So they're really like going and taking what people say and incorporating it in a relatively fast way, which might just be what sets them apart from Kickstarter, because Kickstarter does not really take feedback.
Yeah,
Um,
I've heard that. I've heard that. Well, as far as like brass tacks, I mean, you are constantly, well, not constantly, but you are frequently putting up new games onto Kickstarter between Weird Giraffe Games, Galactic Raptor, and you've also assisted many other smaller or newer publishers on their projects, getting them set up with Kickstarter. You have Gifts of Tulips up on Kickstarter right now. What about your next project? Are you considering maybe using Gamefound, or are you still going to kind of just wait and see, maybe visit the idea in a year or so or a couple projects down the road?
I think for me to use GameFound, there'd have to be like a significant change or like a lot of people on there. Mainly because I've used Kickstarter for about 5 years now, and I've gone through and like all the people that know me that didn't know about Kickstarter, like I've gone and I've taught them how to use it. I've created a following on Kickstarter. Like you can follow creators, so like
Mm-hmm.
there's a certain number of people like. If I just launch a project or back a project, I get an email for it. And that whole system is really, really nice. Like that's where most of my backers come from at this point, is they either they sign up on the pre-launch page, or they get a notification because I launch or because a friend has backed my campaign, and they get email like they're following other people. And I think like that it gives you a lot of backers through there, and I know how to use it and what to do, whereas GameFound is more open, like who knows. And there's just like a lot of people on Kickstarter right now, like people like when they want to go buy games, some of them just go and search on Kickstarter until they find something to buy. And until that changes and people are just like hanging out on GameFound finding new projects, I don't think that'll be something that I use. Well, unless I like need it for some cool thing. Like I know that Kickstarter does like a lot of like weird stuff. Like they have their Make 100 in January. They had a break Kickstarter campaign. Like if GameFound started doing like weird stuff like that, like I think that would definitely be like something cool to do. Like if I could get inspiration and be like, "Oh yeah, this is perfect for GameFound for these reasons," I would definitely try it out. The people behind it are really nice, and as I said, they do take feedback, which is great. So yeah, I would definitely be open to it, but like at this point in time, I'm not planning anything on GameFound at this point.
Well, this has been super helpful in order to demystify some of this from a third-party perspective. Of course, I'm going to try to reach out to someone at Gamefound to hopefully have them on for an interview on the Cardboard Herald. But either way, I think that more options is going to just benefit the hobby, and I'm really excited to see where this goes over the next year or so, and maybe we can revisit this topic maybe at a convention when we can actually go to those things again, and actually kind of look back and to see how it's developed since this initial early stages that it's at right now. So everyone who is watching this or listening to it on the day that it goes up, you can find Weird Giraffe's latest Kickstarter still going on. That's Gifts of Tulips. Definitely go check that out. I'll have links to that in the descriptions. Carla, thanks again for coming onto the show and helping us out.
Yeah, thanks so much, and everyone have a great weekend.
If you enjoyed this video, we have all kinds of other reviews, interviews, and recommendations via writing, podcasts, and video here on our channel and website cardboardherald.com. Our content is audience supported, so if you want to show your support, please visit our Patreon. Thank you so much for watching. This has been the Cardboard Herald.